The city skyline glittered, a silent audience to the drama unfolding on the rooftop. This was Pim's sanctuary, the place she came to untangle the knots in her mind. But tonight, the biggest knot was her own heart, and it seemed to follow her wherever she went. The quiet was broken by the soft sound of footsteps. Pim turned, and there she was, Fah. Their eyes locked across the terrace, and the air grew thick with unspoken words. This wasn't just silence. It was a heavy, charged quiet, filled with all the things they'd been too afraid to say. It was the silence of two souls who had connected on a level that defied language, a connection that had been simmering for weeks, building with every shared glance, every lingering touch. Fah's voice was a gentle melody that cut through the tension. "You disappeared after practice," she said, her steps closing the distance between them. "I was worried." Pim's throat felt tight. "I just needed some air." She tried to sound casual, but her voice betrayed her. A soft, knowing smile played on Fah's lips. "And you came up here? You always come here when something's on your mind." Pim couldn't look away. It was impossible. Fah's eyes, illuminated by the dim rooftop lamp, were a warm, steady beacon in the chaos of Pim's emotions. They were the kind of eyes that saw right through her defenses, making it impossible to pretend she didn't care, that this wasn't tearing her apart. Their friendship had blossomed so quickly, so intensely. Too close, Pim had often thought, a dangerous and beautiful closeness. Every inside joke, every accidental brush of their hands, had chipped away at the walls she'd so carefully built around her heart. And then there was the rehearsal for episode 7. That moment had changed everything. The script had called for them to be close, but the electricity that crackled between them when their faces were inches apart was entirely unscripted. It was real, it was powerful, and it had terrified Pim. She'd pulled back, mumbled an excuse, and fled, her heart pounding with a panic she couldn't explain. Fah's voice, soft as a whisper, brought her back to the present. "Is this about what happened earlier?" The memory flashed in Pim's mind, vivid and unsettling. She didn't want to relive it, but it was there, replaying on a loop. The pull, the heat, the undeniable magnetic force. "Pim," Fah said, her tone gentle and reassuring, "you don't have to be scared of me. I'm not scared of you." Pim's voice was barely a whisper, a fragile admission. "I'm scared of this." Fah's expression softened, her gaze filled with an understanding that was both comforting and terrifying. "This?" she asked, her voice inviting the truth. "This feeling," Pim finally confessed, the words trembling as they left her lips. "This feeling between us. I don't know what to do with it." Fah took another slow, deliberate step forward. She was giving Pim an out, a chance to retreat. But Pim stood her ground, rooted to the spot, her heart hammering against her ribs. Fah reached out, her fingers gently tucking a stray strand of hair behind Pim's ear. The touch was electric, a simple gesture that sent a jolt of warmth through Pim's entire body, making her knees feel weak. "I feel it too," Fah murmured, her voice a low, intimate confession that resonated deep in Pim's soul. "I feel it every single time you walk into a room. Every time you look at me with those eyes, like you're fighting a war inside yourself." A shaky breath escaped Pim's lips. She had never felt so seen, so utterly transparent. It was as if Fah could read the pages of her heart. "I didn't want this to happen," Pim admitted, the words heavy with the weight of her struggle. "But it did," Fah whispered back, her voice full of a gentle certainty. "And it's beautiful." Pim squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the overwhelming truth of Fah's words. It was beautiful, and terrifying, and everything she had secretly yearned for. "Fah, if we cross this line, everything changes," Pim warned, a last desperate attempt to hold onto the familiar ground of their friendship. "I know." Fah's voice was steady, unwavering. "But pretending we're only friends is already hurting both of us. Can't you feel it?" Pim opened her eyes, and the raw vulnerability she saw in Fah's expression was her undoing. It shattered the last of her resistance. She had fought so hard, for so long, to keep her feelings locked away, to maintain her composure, to pretend that the fire between them wasn't real. But here, under the vast open sky, with Fah looking at her as if she were the only person in the world, hiding was no longer an option. The truth was a tidal wave, and it was about to crash over them. A soft breeze ghosted across the rooftop, a silent witness to their moment. It lifted their hair, caressing their faces as Fah's hand slid from Pim's ear down to her shoulder. Her thumb began tracing tiny, hypnotic circles on Pim's skin, sending shivers dancing down her spine. The air was thick with anticipation, with the scent of the city night and the unspoken desires of two hearts beating in anxious harmony. "You can tell me no," Fa whispered, her voice a fragile promise. "Just say the word and I'll step back. I'll walk away." But Pim couldn't say the word. She didn't want to. Instead, she shook her head, a small, almost imperceptible movement that spoke volumes. "I don't want you to step back," she breathed, the words catching in her throat. Fa's breath hitched, a soft, audible gasp in the quiet of the night. With a newfound courage, Pim raised her hand, her fingers trembling slightly, and placed it over Fa's, holding it firmly against her shoulder. It was an anchor, a statement. Her heart was a wild drum in her chest, but the frantic rhythm was no longer fear. It was certainty. It was rightness. Fa leaned in, her movement slow and deliberate, closing the small space that remained between them until Pim could feel the warmth of her breath against her skin. "Then let me be close," Fa pleaded, her voice a husky whisper. The world around them seemed to dissolve. The city noise faded into a distant hum, the shimmering lights blurred into a soft glow. There was only this space, this moment, this rooftop. Pim felt herself leaning into an instinctual pull, a magnetic draw she could no longer resist. Their foreheads touched, a light, tender connection that sent a jolt of fire through them both. The warmth spread, a slow burn that promised to consume them. "Fa." Pim whispered her name, a final, breathless surrender. "Yes." Fa's voice was thick with emotion. Pim's reply was simple, a command and a plea all in one. "Don't stop." And then it happened. The culmination of weeks of stolen glances and unspoken feelings. Their lips finally met. It was soft, hesitant at first, a gentle question. Then, as if they'd found the answer they were looking for, the kiss deepened. It was slow, natural, unhurried, like two rivers finally merging into one. It felt like coming home. Pim felt herself melt into the kiss, into Fa, into the moment. Her hands found their way to Fa's waist as Fa's hands cupped her face, holding her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. It was a kiss of discovery, of acceptance, of a truth so profound it left them breathless. When they finally, reluctantly, pulled apart, they didn't move away. They stayed close, foreheads resting against each other, breathing the same trembling air, their heartbeats echoing in the small space between them. A universe had just been created and destroyed in a single kiss. "I've wanted to do that for so long," Fa murmured, her voice husky, her lips still tingling. A shy smile bloomed on Pim's face, her cheeks flushed with a warmth that had nothing to do with the evening air. "Me too," she confessed, her voice filled with a happy disbelief. Fa's fingers found Pim's and she intertwined them, a simple, solid connection. "Then let's stop running," Fa said, her gaze steady and sure. Pim looked at their joined hands, then back into Fa's eyes. She nodded, a wave of relief and joy washing over her. She leaned her head against Fa's shoulder, a comfortable, perfect fit. Below them, the city lights continued to flicker, a dazzling, beautiful tapestry. But for the first time, Pim didn't feel small or lost. The world didn't feel too big for her feelings anymore. Here, in Fa's arms, everything felt just right. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. See you next time. "You're unbelievable." Her voice was a soft whisper, laced with a smile she couldn't hide. "And you're adorable when you get flustered," came the reply, a playful tease that sent a flutter through her heart. Pim loved this easy softness, this unguarded honesty. She loved that Fa wasn't afraid to show how much she cared, that her affection was as clear as the city lights spread out below them. It was a refreshing change from the cautious dance they'd been performing for so long. The rooftop door creaked open with a sudden, sharp groan. Both women stiffened, their bodies tensing as they turned towards the sound. A shared breath of relief escaped them when they realized it was only a gust of wind, a phantom intruder rattling the door in its frame. But the spell was broken. The moment, so fragile and perfect, had been pierced, reminding them that a world of complications and expectations existed just beyond this soft, starlit bubble they had created. Pim let out a slow exhale, the last of the tension leaving her shoulders. "We should probably go," she said, her voice barely audible. The words felt heavy, a reluctant surrender to the reality that awaited them. "Probably," Fa agreed, her tone just as hesitant. But the word hung in the air between them, a single thread of hope. "But," Pim prompted, her heart skipping a beat. Fa reached for her again, her fingers tracing a feather-light path along Pim's wrist, sending shivers up her arm. I don't want to go back to pretending tomorrow. The confession was raw, vulnerable, and it struck a deep chord within Pim. The thought of returning to stolen glances and unspoken words was unbearable. Pim swallowed hard, the lump in her throat making it difficult to speak. Neither do I, she admitted, her voice thick with emotion. The fear of tomorrow, of losing this newfound connection, was a cold knot in her stomach. So what do we do? Fa asked softly, her eyes searching Pim's for an answer, for some kind of direction. The question was simple, but the implications were monumental. What did they do now that their feelings were out in the open? How did they navigate this new uncharted territory? Pim's gaze dropped to their hands, where Fa's fingers were still gently holding her wrist. An idea, a gesture, formed in her mind. Slowly, deliberately, she lifted their joined hands and pressed them against her own chest, right over her heart. It was a silent promise, a physical manifestation of her feelings. Fa's eyes widened, a flicker of surprise and understanding crossing her features. She watched the movement, her breath catching in her throat. We try, Pim whispered, the words carrying all the weight of her hope and her fear. Slowly, carefully, but we try. It was the only answer she had, the only path forward she could see. It was a leap of faith, a commitment to exploring whatever this was between them, no matter how complicated it might be. A smile, the softest, most radiant smile Pim had ever seen, bloomed across Fa's face. It was a smile of pure, unadulterated happiness, one that reached her eyes and made them shine. Okay, Fa whispered back, her voice filled with relief and joy. We try. Pim squeezed her hand, a small, reassuring gesture. But you have to be patient with me, she added, needing to be sure Fa understood. Her own heart was still learning this new rhythm, still finding its footing on this unfamiliar ground. I will, Fa said, without a moment's hesitation, her conviction absolute. As long as you stay close. The request was simple, a plea for proximity, for the comfort of Pim's presence as they navigated this new beginning. In response, Pim stepped closer, closing the small gap that remained between them. She rested her forehead against Fa's, the contact grounding her, steadying the tremor in her hands. The world seemed to melt away, leaving only the two of them, their foreheads pressed together, breathing the same air. I'm not going anywhere, she murmured, the promise a solid, unwavering truth. This closeness felt different now. It wasn't charged with the nervous energy of before. It was natural, warm, and steady. It felt like coming home. Fa tilted her head slightly, her nose brushing against Pim's in a gentle, affectionate nudge, a gesture so tender it made Pim's heart ache with a sweet kind of pain. Can I? Fa asked, her voice a soft, breathy question that trailed off, leaving the rest unsaid but perfectly understood. Fa leaned in, her lips meeting Pim's in a kiss that was entirely different from their first. It was slower, more deliberate, deeper, but still held that same breathtaking tenderness. It was a kiss of exploration, of confirmation, of quiet joy. Pim's hands, acting on their own accord, found their way to Fa's shoulders, her fingers curling into the fabric of her shirt as she held her close, anchoring herself in the moment. This kiss said everything they were still too shy, too overwhelmed to speak aloud. It spoke of hope, of beginnings, of a future they were finally brave enough to want. When they finally, reluctantly, pulled apart, the air between them was thick with unspoken emotion. Pim's lips tingled, and she could still feel the phantom pressure of Fa's touch. We should really go, she whispered, her voice husky. Before someone actually comes up here. The reality of their situation was a gentle nudge, not the jarring interruption it had been before. Fa didn't let go. Instead, she laced their fingers together, their hands fitting perfectly. Then let's go. Together, they turned and walked towards the stairwell door, their hands still linked, a tangible connection between them. Their hearts were still trembling, still reeling from the emotional intensity of the night, but they were no longer running. They were walking forward, side by side. Tomorrow would be complicated. They both knew that. It would be new and probably a little scary. There would be questions and challenges they couldn't yet imagine. But tonight, under the vast star-dusted sky, with their hands intertwined and their hearts finally aligned, tonight felt absolutely perfect. And for now, that was more than enough. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this story, please consider liking and subscribing for more. We'll see you next time. The morning sun cast soft golden stripes across the rehearsal studio floor. I stood by the window, clutching my water bottle like a lifeline. I'd arrived early, way earlier than anyone else, because my heart hadn't stopped pounding since last night. I'd barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt Fah's lips on mine again, warm and gentle. Every breath I took carried the echo of our whispered promise on the rooftop. We try. The words were a tiny, hopeful fire inside my chest. A soft click of the studio door made me freeze. I knew that sound, everyone did, but now it felt different, like a signal meant just for me. Pim, Fah's voice. It was gentle, warm, and already felt more familiar than it should. I turned around slowly. There she was, standing in the doorway, her hair a little messy from rushing. She held a coffee cup in each hand, and she was wearing the smallest, most secret smile. The kind of smile that's only meant for one person. My heartbeat stumbled. "You're early," she said, walking toward me. "So are you," I managed to reply. Fah teased softly. "No, I came early because you came early." I tried to hide a smile behind my water bottle. "How did you know?" "Because you always come early when something is on your mind," she said, her voice dropping. "And I had a feeling today would be one of those days." She walked closer, gently offering me one of the coffees. "And I had a feeling today would be one of those days." I hesitated. Taking that coffee felt significant, more significant than last night's kiss, in a strange way. It felt like the start of something real, something tangible. Thank you," I murmured, my hand reaching out to take it. As I did, her fingers brushed against mine. A faint, almost imperceptible touch, but it sent a warm shiver all the way up my arm. Neither of us moved away. The studio was empty, quiet, a safe little bubble where the rest of the world hadn't intruded yet. "Did you sleep?" Fah asked, leaning against the window frame beside me. "A little," I admitted. "Me neither." Our eyes met for a fraction of a second before we both looked down, a shared blush warming our cheeks. The silence that fell between us wasn't awkward or heavy. It was full of all the things we were still trying to find the words for. Finally, I broke it. "Are we okay?" Fah tilted her head, considering my question. "More than okay," she said softly. "But if you're asking whether I'm still here, yes, I'm here." A warmth spread through my chest, easing a tension I didn't even know I was holding. "Good." A laugh escaped Fah's lips, soft, relieved, and impossibly sweet. "You saying that just made my whole morning." We sipped our coffees in comfortable silence for another moment. The calm felt fragile, precious, like it could be shattered at any second. And of course, it was. The door burst open, and the rest of the cast poured in, their loud chatter and laughter filling the room instantly. Bags were dropped, conversations started, and the quiet bubble popped. Fah and I instinctively stepped apart, but not before our hands brushed one last time. Ning, our choreographer, clapped her hands loudly. "All right, everyone, warm up. Big rehearsal today." Fah shot me a tiny, apologetic smile before jogging toward the center of the room. A strange ache bloomed in my chest, missing her already, even though she was only a few feet away. The rehearsal began. Music filled the air, bodies started moving, and instructions were shouted across the room. But no matter what I was doing, my eyes kept drifting, searching, and they always found Fah, every single time. At one point, we were paired for a blocking exercise. We were standing close again, facing our reflections in the mirrored wall. I tried to focus on my lines, to breathe normally, to push the memory of last night out of my head. But it was no use. Fah leaned in slightly, her voice a low murmur only I could hear. "You're thinking too hard." I shot her a half-hearted glare. "And whose fault is that?" A mischievous grin spread across her face. "Yours. You kissed me back." My face flushed hot. "Fah," she laughed softly, the sound calming my racing thoughts. "Relax. I'm just happy." I've never had a reason to smile through a rehearsal before. My chest tightened, but in the best possible way. The exercise continued. We moved closer, then stepped apart, circling each other according to the choreography. But it felt like more than just following directions. It felt like a dance around this beautiful, fragile secret that only the two of us shared. But secrets, especially happy ones, have a way of being noticed. Suddenly, Ning pointed right at us. "Pim, Fah, whatever is happening between you two, keep it out of rehearsal." Panic seized me. "Nothing is happening," I blurted out, a little too quickly. At the exact same moment, Fah said, "Something might be happening." I whipped my head around to stare at her. "Fah." She just looked at me with this innocent expression. "What?" she whispered. "We said we'd try." Ning just raised an eyebrow. Well, try after practice. For now, focus. I covered my face with my hands, completely mortified. I could hear Fah's quiet laughter beside me, and then felt her gentle touch on my elbow, a silent apology. And even that small gesture was enough to steady me. As the rehearsal went on, something shifted, not just between us, but in the energy around us. Our chemistry on stage was undeniable now, and for the first time, I didn't want to hide from it. I leaned into it, letting it fuel my performance. During the final break, as everyone was grabbing water, Fah moved close to me again. "Meet me after this?" she whispered. I nodded without a single moment of hesitation. Yes, the smile she gave me then was different. It was soft, loving, and absolutely certain. I knew in that moment that this was just the beginning. Tonight, another chapter would start. Thanks for tuning into this part of the story. If you're enjoying the journey of Pim and Fah, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. See you in the next video. Rehearsals seemed to stretch on forever, though Pim suspected it only felt that way because she couldn't stop glancing at the studio clock. 5 minutes left. 3, 1. Her heartbeat kept time with the countdown. Finally, Ning clapped her hands. "All right, good work today. Go home, drink water, and don't forget tomorrow's call time." The room exploded into relieved chatter as everyone grabbed their bags and rushed out. Pim lingered by the corner, pretending to tie her shoelaces, even though they were already perfectly tied. She knew Fah was watching her. She could feel the gaze like a warm hand on her back. The moment the last cast member stepped out, the studio door clicked shut. Silence. Pim straightened slowly. Fah was already leaning against the mirror wall, arms crossed, watching her with that look, soft, knowing, patient. "You stayed," Fah said. "You asked me to," Pim replied, stepping closer. Fah smiled. "Still, you could have pretended you forgot." Pim shook her head. "I didn't want to." Fah's expression softened, almost painfully tender. She pushed off the wall and walked toward Pim, slow and steady, as though approaching something fragile. And maybe she was. "So," Fah began, stopping just in front of Pim, close enough that their breaths mingled. "What do we do with this moment?" Pim swallowed. "We talk?" Fah laughed quietly. "I want more than talking, but we can talk." Her honesty made Pim blush again. She didn't know how Fah kept doing that, how she made her feel exposed and comfortable at the same time. Pim lowered her gaze, hesitating. "Today was difficult. Because of me?" Fah asked softly. "No," Pim said quickly. Then she sighed. "Because I wanted to be near you the whole time, and I couldn't." Fah's breath caught, just a little. "Pim." "And because," Pim whispered, "I don't know how to act around you anymore." Fah reached out slowly, giving Pim every chance to pull away, and gently touched her elbow. "You don't have to act around me." Pim lifted her eyes. "That's the problem. With you, I don't want to act at all." The words hung between them, honest and trembling. Fah's voice softened to a whisper. "Come here." She opened her arms, not forceful, not demanding, just an invitation. Pim stepped forward without thinking. Being held by Fah felt strangely natural, like falling into a place she didn't know she'd been missing. Fah's arms wrapped around her waist, warm and secure. Pim buried her face near Fah's shoulder, inhaling the faint scent of vanilla and sweat from rehearsal. "I thought about you all night," Fah confessed softly. "I kept replaying that rooftop moment, and every version ended with me wanting more." Pim's fingers curled slightly into Fah's shirt. "I kept replaying it too." "Did it scare you?" Fah murmured. "Yes," Pim admitted, "because it felt right." Fah pulled back just enough to see her face. "And does it still feel right?" Pim nodded once. "Yes." Relief washed over Fah's features, so visible and raw that Pim's chest tightened with emotion. Fah lifted a hand and gently cupped Pim's cheek, brushing her thumb along her skin. "Then let me ask you the question I've been dying to ask all day," Fah whispered. "Pim, do you want this? Us?" Pim hesitated, but not out of doubt. Out of the weight of the moment, out of how important it felt. She held Fah's gaze, searching, feeling the trembling certainty inside her grow stronger. "I don't know what us looks like," Pim said quietly, "but I know I don't want to run anymore." Fah smiled, a slow, warm, breathtaking smile. "Then come with me." Pim blinked. "Where?" "Outside," Fah said. "Just a walk. Just time together without scripts and crowds and people staring." Pim nodded. "Okay." Fah took her hand, interlacing their fingers with the same gentle confidence she had shown last night. They walked out of the studio, down the hallway, and onto the quiet, dimly lit street. The evening breeze was cool, and the city buzzed softly in the distance. They walked slowly, shoulders brushing, neither saying much. They didn't need to. After a few minutes, Fah spoke. Pim, yes? Can I hold your hand properly? Pim looked down at their already linked fingers and laughed softly. This isn't proper? Fah squeezed her hand. No, this is careful. I want to hold your hand like someone who likes you. Pim's heart stuttered. You like me? A lot, Fah confessed, her cheeks blushing in the dim streetlight. Pim's lips curved into a shy smile. She tightened her grip. Then hold it. Fah did, firm, certain hers. As they continued walking, Pim felt something new settle inside her. Not fear, not confusion. Something steady, something warm, something beginning. The quiet street wrapped around them like a gentle cocoon far from the studio lights, the chatter of the cast, and the pressure of pretending nothing was happening. Pim felt strangely weightless with Fah's hand wrapped around hers, warm and certain. Every step they took together made something inside her settle, even as her heart fluttered with a nervous, hopeful excitement. Fah glanced at her from time to time, as if making sure Pim was still there, not just physically, but emotionally. Pim noticed every look, every tiny squeeze of the hand, every quiet breath Fah took, as though she too was trying to steady herself. They stopped at a small park near the studio, where an old wooden bench sat under a dim street lamp. Leaves rustled gently above them. The world felt softer here, more real. Sit with me? Fah asked, her voice a gentle invitation. Pim nodded, and they lowered themselves onto the bench, their hands still linked between them. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence wasn't heavy or awkward, it was full of the things they were both gathering the courage to finally say. Finally, Pim whispered, breaking the quiet spell. It's strange. What is? Fah turned slightly toward her, her focus entirely on Pim. How normal this feels, Pim admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. As if, we've done this before. A soft smile bloomed on Fah's face, and she brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Maybe we were always meant to reach this moment. You say things like that so easily, Pim said, feeling a warmth spread across her cheeks. That's because they're true. Fah's voice softened, filled with a conviction that was both disarming and comforting. I like being honest with you. Pim looked down at their joined hands, her thumb brushing over the back of Fah's hand lightly. I'm still learning how. You're doing perfectly, Fah reassured her, her tone gentle. You've already told me more in these past 2 days than in the entire time we've known each other. Well, that rooftop kind of forced it out, Pim said shyly, a small smile playing on her lips. And I'm glad it did, Fah whispered, her voice sincere. A cool breeze brushed against them, carrying the soft, sweet scent of jasmine from a nearby garden. Pim inhaled slowly, letting the peacefulness of the night clear her mind a little. Fah, she began, her voice barely audible. Do you think people will notice? I think people already noticed, Fah said with a quiet laugh, a hint of amusement in her eyes. But what matters is whether we're ready to deal with it. Pim bit her lip, the familiar worry returning. I don't want rumors, or pressure, or people watching every single move we make. Fah nodded, her expression turning serious as she understood Pim's concern. Then we keep it between us for now. We move at your pace. We protect this until we're strong enough not to care who knows. A wave of relief washed over Pim, loosening the tension in her shoulders. You're sure? 100% sure, Fah said without a hint of hesitation. I don't want to rush you, Pim. I just want to be beside you. The sincerity in her voice made Pim's chest ache in a way that was both scary and wonderful. She wasn't used to someone being so patient, so gentle with her heart. Slowly, almost shyly, Pim leaned her shoulder against Fah's. The contact was soft, a tentative question. Fah immediately shifted closer, letting their warmth blend naturally, a silent answer. For a long moment, they just sat there, side by side, breathing the same calm evening air, finding a new rhythm together. Then Fah spoke, her voice low. Can I tell you something I didn't say on the rooftop? Pim nodded, her curiosity piqued. I thought you were going to run away after the kiss, Fah admitted, her voice vulnerable. A soft laugh escaped Pim. I almost did, but you stayed. Fah's voice was filled with quiet wonder. Because, Pim hesitated, choosing her words with care. wanting them to be just right. Because when you kissed me, it didn't feel like something I needed to escape from. Fah smiled, a slow, genuine smile that lit up her eyes and made Pim's heart skip a beat. Good, because I wasn't sure I'd recover if you pulled away. Pim felt the heat rise to her cheeks again. Don't say things like that. Why? Fah asked playfully, nudging her shoulder. Does it make you nervous? Yes, Pim admitted honestly. And do you hate that? Pim shook her head, a small, genuine smile forming on her lips. No, I think I like it. I like when you talk like that. Fah's eyes softened, full of affection. Then I'll keep doing it. A comfortable, easy silence fell between them again. The street lamp above them flickered faintly, casting gentle shadows across their faces, creating their own private world. Fah, Pim whispered suddenly, the question that had been lingering in her heart finally surfacing. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why me? Fah didn't even hesitate. Her answer was immediate, as if she'd thought about it 1,000 times. Because you don't try to impress anyone. You don't show off. You don't pretend. You're real. And when you look at someone, they can feel it. Pim blinked, stunned by the observation. I didn't know you noticed those things. I noticed everything about you, Fah said quietly, her gaze steady and unwavering. Even the things you try so hard to hide. Pim felt her heart swell. It was scary, vulnerable, but undeniably good. That's a lot. It is, Fah agreed softly. But so is everything I feel for you. This time, Pim was the one who reached out. She slid her hand up Fah's arm, slowly, gently, until her fingers found the side of Fah's neck. Fah's breath shivered at the delicate touch. I'm trying, Pim whispered, her voice thick with emotion. You're doing more than trying, Fah murmured, her voice warm and low. You're letting me in. Pim leaned closer until their foreheads touched, a small, intimate space where only they existed. The warmth, the closeness, it was all so new, so right. Fah, can I? Fah nodded without even hearing the rest of the question, her eyes closing as she leaned into Pim's touch. And then Pim kissed her softly at first, a gentle exploration, then with a growing confidence she didn't know she possessed. Fah cupped her cheek, her thumb stroking Pim's skin, pulling her closer, deepening the warmth and the connection between them. When they finally parted, breathless and smiling, the world around them seemed to hum with a new energy. Pim whispered, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. I think I'm falling. Fah rested her forehead against hers, her smile matching Pim's. Then fall. I'm right here. And for the first time, in that quiet moment under the flickering street lamp, Pim believed her completely. She wasn't alone in this. She wasn't going to fall. She was going to be caught. Thank you so much for watching. This story is just getting started, so if you want to see what happens next with Pim and Fah, make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned on. We'll see you in the next part.